Rama Rama Hare विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजक सरस्वती श्रीमद् देशिकवेदांत श्रील प्रभुपाद की इस्कॉन गौणराचार्य श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजक सरस्वती श्रीमद् भक्त सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की गौर प्रेमानंदे। All glory Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवते उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविंदाय नमो नमः। Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 3, entitled as Krishna is the source of all incarnations, verse 35. Evam janmani karmani ekattu rajanasya cha karnayanti sma kavayo veda bhuyan hritpatehe। एवं जन्मानि कर्माणि एकत्तु रजनस्य च वर्णयन्ति स्म कवयो वेदभूयानि हृत्पतेः। एवं जन्मानि कर्माणि एकत्तु रजनस्य च वर्णयन्ति वेद भूयानि हृत्पतेः। Translation purport by Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Thus, learn and describe the birth and activities of the unborn and inactive, which is undiscoverable even in Vedic literature. He is the Lord of the heart. Both Lord and the living entities are essentially all spiritual. Therefore, both of them are eternal and neither of them has birth and death. The difference is that the so-called births and disappearance of the Lord are unlike those of the living beings. The living beings who take birth and then accept, then again accept death are bound by the laws of material nature. But the so-called appearance and disappearance of the Lord are not actions of the material nature, but the demonstrations of the internal potential of the Lord. They are described by the great sages for the purpose of self-realization. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita by the Lord that his so-called birth in material world and his activities are all transcendental. And simply by meditation on such activities, one can attain realization of Brahman and thus become liberated from material bondage. In the Shrutis, it is said that the birthless appears to take birth. The Supreme has nothing to do. But because of his omnipotent, everything is performed by him naturally as if done automatically. As a matter of fact, the appearance and disappearance of the Supreme Personality of God and his different activities are all confidential, even to Vedic literatures. Yet they are displayed by the Lord to bestow mercy upon the conditioned souls. We should always take advantages of the narrations of the activities of the Lord, which are meditation on Brahman in the most convenient and palatable form. Chandra Srimad Bhagavatam Gita. Om Ajnanam-Vidandasya Jnananjana-Shalakaya Chakshurunnilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya-Manavishwaram Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Ruparam Yena Jadati Swapadam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Guru Shri Guru Vaishnava Shri Rupam Sagaragatam Sagaragatam Bhavanutam Parijana Chaitanyadev Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sagarana Radha Krishna Hey Krishna Karuna Deenavandam Gopesha Gopika Kanta Kanta Taptara Vanchana Rami Rameshwari Shabanu Sudene Pranamami Vancha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Hare Hare Krishna. Welcome you all to today's Srimad Bhagavatam class. I seek blessings of all you here that I can speak something worthwhile on this very important, very first and important chapter. Please forgive me if I commit any offenses knowingly or unknowingly. Gita Goswami till now was explaining about various aspects of the law, including its universal form and how to pursue him in the material world. So now in this verse, he communicating the importance of hearing about birth and activities of the Lord, which are not commonly known to each and every one.
एवं जन्मानि कर्माणि हि अकर्तु अजनस्य च वर्णयन्ति स्म कवयो वेदज्ञानि उत्पते. Kavayo means learned when Varnayanti describes the birth and activities, Janmani and Dharmani, the law. And also the Akaratu and Ajanasya. He and the stage that is inactive and unborn. So there is a contradiction. Like we are discussing about the birth and activities, and also he says of the unborn and inactive. So in the purport, Prabhupada give a comparison of living entities and the Lord. Like he says, both Lord and living entities are essentially spiritual, and therefore both of them are eternal, and neither of them has birth and death. Now, these three things, like spiritual, eternal, and neither of them takes birth and death. This is implies only if living entities are, come out of the bodily concept, where we are in a spiritual platform. So also, then he comes up with differences, like the Lord appears and disappears by his internal potency. Sambhavami Atmamaya. So, but whereas living entities, they appears and disappear based on the laws of material nature. So we don't have a choice. We are destined to take birth due to laws of karma. So another difference is Lord appears in his own body and there is no transmigration. Whereas with the living being, there is a changes in the body, there is no fixed body. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is one verse, Deha Dehi Re Nama Nami Re Krishna Nahi Veda Jive Dharma Nama Deha Sarupe Viveda. Deha Dehi Re. Like Krishna's body, there is no difference between Krishna's body and himself, and there is no difference between Krishna's name and himself. As far as conditioned soul is concerned, everything is different. Like one's name is different from the body and from one's original form, and so on. And the next difference he mentions that there is no transformation. He never grows beyond youth. Like if you in Bhagavad Gita, it is mentioned in Kurukshetra when Krishna was there, he was this Navayavana, right? He was almost in the age of say 20 to 24. So Krishna's growth is only up to Navayavana, it's up to youth. Whereas human beings or living entities has different stages. Like we have Shadvikara, 6 stages, like birth, then growth, and the next one is like what do you maintenance, and then the decay and the die. So example is like fruit. Like if you take the example of fruit, the flower, I mean start from the flower, and flower becomes a seed, and seed goes when the and get into a form of fruit. A fruit has a seed, which is this byproduct, and it decays and then it dries out. So also the living entity's body has sapta dhatu, which has 7 layers. So and also like living entities and how we feel our consciousness. I mean, how we will identify ourselves. It is by consciousness. Like consciousness means there is pancha prana. The like pancha prana means like so there are 5 acts through which our conscious spreads. The prana, apana, samana, udana, and vayana. These are the pancha pranas. But Krishna He is not limited to all these things. There is no transformation for him. And Krishna remembers everything very, very past birth, but living beings has a short memory. Intelligence never deteriorates in Lord, whereas our intelligence deteriorates. And Krishna is called as omnipotent, infinite. He is a wonderful and superhuman. He has superhuman activities. If you think of all his leelas, it is like unimaginable. It's wonderful. And human beings has limited activities. And he is Satchidananda. In Brahma Samhita, I say, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadi Adi Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. He is the origin of all, and he has no other origin, and he is the prime cause of all causes. So, in Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada, referring to verse 10.2, where Krishna saying about himself and his nature, Name Vidu Suragana Pravavana Marshaya Am Adi Rati Devana Marshinam Ta Sarvashaha. Like he says that he is the origin of, he is the source of all the demigods and sages. But the demigods and great sages, they are not aware of his origin and opulences. And similarly, in the next verse, he says, Yoma Ajam Anadicha Vitti Loka Maheshwara Asammodama Vrityeshi Sarva Papaitra Pusyate. Like the one who knows me as Ajam, unborn, Anadim, Anadim means beginningless, as Supreme Lord, he only undulated. He is an intelligent man and he gets free from all sins. So, in Bhagavad Gita, verse 10.7, Krishna says his five pastimes and activities to be known and learned by truth. That is like, it's like a condition applied. He emphasizes them to know in any truth. Etam Vibhuti Yogam Cha Mama Vitti Tattvataha So Avikalpena Yogena Vijate Natva Samsaya. So the one who actually knows him and his opulences and his mystic power by his only in another he is engages in unenvironmental devotional service and he gets engaged in devotional service and he says it is undoubtedly. So the condition is that we should know him in truth of his mystic powers and opulence. So in like Rajendra in his prayers, he mentions that Janma Karma Na Nama Rupe Na Dosha. Like he mentions, Supreme Personality of Godhead has no material birth, activities, name, form, qualities, and faults. And he incarnates to fulfill the purpose of which in this material world, which is he created and destroyed, and in the form of human being like Rama and Rama. By his own internal potency, Sambhavi Atmanayana. And he has immense potency and has various forms. And he is free from all material contamination. And he performs all activities wonderfully. So, like Rajendra also in prayers, like when a devotee understood this, he mentions in prayers, like in Kunti Devi also mentioned the same, and the verse is almost similar. So, which I will come to later. So, now here in this verse, as I said, so it's describing the Lord, Janmadi Karma, the birth and activities. But in the next one, he has mentioned Apatu Apertu and agenesis. So apertu means inactive. Agenesis means unborn. So there is a contradiction. So why this contradiction? Like in Vedas and Upanishads speak unclear and confusing and indirect languages like when it comes to the defining and glorifying the Lord. So we can say it is like a sort of a coded language which leads to misinterpretation. And also it leaves a lot of scope for speculation in people. So in Upanishad, there is one verse, Apani Pradho Javano Gradita Pashyati Achakshu Sarvanoti Akaranaha. So what it means, he has no legs and hands, but he accepts all offerings. He has no eyes, but he can see, and he has no ears, but he hears everything. So here there is no direct mention of name of the Lord, but scriptures like Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam very clearly explain who that God, which is not mentioned in the Upanishad. So in verse Bhagavad Gita in verse 4.6, Krishna says, Ajo Apisad Avyatma Bhutana Iskaro Ismana Prakritim Swam Adhistaya Sambhavati Atmanamaya. So Krishna himself declared that even if unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of living entities, I still appear in every millennium by my own potency in transcendental form. Like Alex earlier said, Kunti Devi in her prayers mentions, which is similar to this verse, Janma Karmacha Vishwatma Ajasya Akartur Atmanaha Kriyan Rishi Vedasu Tad Atyanta Vidambanaha. So here she mentions Atyanta Vidambana. It is uh, bewildering, very much bewildering. So here Janma Karma cha Vishwatma. Janma means birth, karma means again activity. Ajasya Apartur, as I mentioned, it is unborn, and so she is praised to Lord that O soul of the universe that you work through, though you are inactive, and that you take birth, though you are the vital force and unborn. And also she mentions that you yourself descend amongst animals, when sages, epitals, like here Yadashu means water. So we have all the references like Krishna's appearance in different forms, and all these like in animal form, like in water, how it's taken everything. So these statements like appears quite contradictory, but Acharya says that it is not contradictory, it is paradoxical. So in Ishopanishad, verse 5, where there is a beautiful verse, Tat ejati, tat na ejati, tat dure, tat antike, etatasya sarvasya antaha, tat tu sarvasya asya vayata. That it mentions that moves, but that moves not. And that is far away, the same is near. And that is within all, but that is also outside. So here the contradiction means the two opposite statement doesn't have sense. So when you say contradiction, the two statements are completely opposite. Like in a verse it is mentioned, like Janma, Karma, but again it's a Akartur and Ajansus. So there is it's an opposite statement. Whereas, as Acharya say, it is paradoxical. Paradoxical means at deeper level, it makes sense. So, for example, air, which is which is very later, but we cannot hold it for long. So we cannot hold our breath for a long, correct? So it is as it is like it's as simple as that. There is a logic, but there is a contradiction, but it cannot be uh, made clear. So Srila Prabhupada is in this relation to Usha verse, he states that Supreme Personality of God has to be inconceivable. Scriptures explain that absolute truth cannot be understood by speculation, and absolute truth can be understood by only by revelation. Absolute truth is so great that we cannot know him. Krishna says that revelation occurs only by unalloyed devotional service and by engaging more and more in the service of the Lord. भक्त्यामा अभिज्ञानति एवान याश्च तत्त्वतः ये ये यथा मां प्रपद्यन्ते तञ्च तथैव भजाम्यहम्. So Krishna mentions one can understand me as I am, Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. And when he is fully in consciousness, by such devotion, he can enter into kingdom of God. So in the next, as all surrendered to me, I reward them accordingly. Where we give an assurance that by knowing me, my activity, my unborn qualities, and my pastimes, he ensures that he rewards the devotee accordingly by knowing his qualities. Someone asks Srila Prabhupada that you have written so many scriptures, literature, and you say that you cannot understand Krishna. Then what is the point of reading so many scriptures? So Srila Prabhupada says that yes, I have written so many scriptures so that one day we understand that we cannot understand Krishna. So, and Srila Prabhupada also mentions that it is difficult to know Krishna in full, but we need to know just enough about Krishna so that we can love him. So, in Upanishad, as I mentioned, that moves, that doesn't move, and that is far away, that is near, that is within all, that is outside all. So, Jiva Goswami says that logic cannot understand the absolute. So, we cannot understand the absolute by logic. Then, does it mean that absolute is illogical? No, absolute truth is not illogical. Absolute truth is translogical. Chaitanya Charitamrita had explained, I mean, very beautifully, the logical, illogical, and translogical. The illogical is not logical, so it doesn't stand strictly of logical. And that is what he explains. And translogical, and it falls apart when it comes to logical. But translogic is above logical, and it is in the presence of translogic, the logical falls apart. So here the one beautiful example is torchlight. So torchlight is helps in seeing things in dark. Okay, so that we all know. But if someone points torchlight to the sky and try to search sun in the dark, then it doesn't serve the purpose. Right. So that is an example for to understand God's logic. So here God is like sun and torchlight is like applying logic. So another example of the logic is ruby-throated hummingbird. So if you know this bird, this weight is heavier, but its wings are very lighter. But it flies 1,000 miles without any, I mean, problem. It is thanks to that it doesn't understand the physics. Otherwise, it will think that how can I fly? Weight is so much, and feathers are light, and it's mentioned. It's also mentioned that its feathers flap 75 times in a second. So also there is a verse when initially when come to the Vacha, that's the part. So when there is a mercy of a God, even dumb can feel, even a handicap can also cross mountains. So scripture says all contradictions mentioned in the scriptures can be resolved by one quality of Krishna, that is Bhakta Vatsal. So in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Ekale Ishvara Krishno, Arasava Bhaktya, Yare, Eche, Nachaya, Che, Eche, Kare Gritya. Lord Krishna is the alone, is the supreme controller, and all others are his servants, and they dance as he makes them to do so. So Krishna is so powerful, and he becomes powerless when all his devotees love. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives an example of bumblebee. So bumblebee enters into lotus flower at the ending. But if you know that bumblebee has a power, it appears to even structure and it has so much power. But it gets covered over the lotus flower and continues to stay there because there is a lot of nectar and gets caught up. And also many times this bumblebee has chances of getting died. So we can imagine like it has a power, but only because of the nectar it gets caught up in the lotus flower and it may lose its powers and its powers are what becomes mukta. It's a mukta. Similarly, when Krishna enters into the heart of devotees, he gets so much covered by the love of the devotees. And he becomes so much Buddha that he forgets his own Godhead positions. So, like if you take Damodar Leela. So, Damodar Leela is a exchange of loving exchange. It is a loving exchange, okay? And in spiritual life, it is more about, it is all about the loving exchanges between the Lord living in and giving in. So, if if suppose if we never accepts Krishna and his powers and his forms, what is going to happen? Like take an example of Mahabharata, where Duryodhana in his verses he never mentions Krishna. He thinks in fact he uh, neglects Krishna or in one sense, and also like when he chooses Akshoni Sena and Krishna goes to the Pandavas. So you know the result. What happened? So if anyone neglects Krishna, so the result is that then it is we will get bewildered and it is difficult to attain a spiritual factor. So in the relations also